Welcome to Oscar Sunday. I'm Austin Johnson,
I'm Connor Eyzaguirre.
and today we will be talking about A Simple Plan from 1998, which received two nominations at the 71st Academy Awards. It's Best Supporting Actor, Billy Bob Thornton, and Best Adapted Screenplay for Scott B. Smith, who adapted his own novel of the same name. It's a great film. Super excited to talk about it today. I think it's kind of a gem of the late 90s that I wish more people talked about. The reason we're kind of doing this is because Sam Raimi is a very important filmmaker to both Connor and I, and his newest film, which he hasn't done a film since Oz the Great and Powerful, 2013. This is, it's almost a 10-year gap, and he directed the new Doctor Strange film that is out now. You can go see that in theaters. Tomorrow we'll have an episode talking about that film, Marvel's latest and greatest. So, it seemed like a fun idea to, we could have done Doctor Strange. We could do a Spider-Man movie on here, but it seems cool to kind of go to a different, realm of Sam Raimi's career because he's got such a crazy, wild run. Of course, this is the genius behind the Evil Dead movies, of course, Army of Darkness, of course, the Spider-Man films, that trilogy, Drag Me to Hell. It's got a lot of really cool movies, and I think A Simple Plan is right up at the tippy top of his best stuff because it is so different. It is so restrained compared to what he usually does. So I'm really excited to talk about it, man.
Yeah, me too. This was new territory for me. It's only a handful of Sam Raimi movies I haven't seen yet, and this was one of them. I'm glad I finally had an excuse to tackle it. It's very, very 90s, very intense, like you said, very restrained, kind of a hybrid of Fargo and Shallow Grave almost. This idea that, when you're looking at a bag of $4 million in cash, you got blinders on. There's nothing else happening. And, how much of that is going to consume your soul. It's such a great concept. We were just talking about how much we love movies about money destroying people. This is one of the best.
Yeah, I agree. I think I agree with you. I read your review, and I love the idea of it being a hybrid of Fargo and Shallow Grave. Of course, Shallow Grave is Danny Boyle, one of his best movies, and Fargo, of course, one of the Coen brothers' best movies. And of course, Sam Raimi and the Coens have this really amazing relationship and work partnership. Wish Crime Wave was a little bit better, but that's
Don't we all?
We can talk about that at a different time. I heard one of my favorite writers. His name's Adam Naiman. He's just kind of a fucking cinephile to the bone, to the core, and he's been doing amazing writing for reviews for different websites. And he's recently written two books. One about the Coen Brothers films. Sorry, I think three books now. The Coen Brothers. He did a Paul Thomas Anderson book. I don't know if the David Fincher book is already out or not, but he tackles these huge, monstrous filmmakers. And I heard him talking about Sam Raimi and talking about A Simple Plan. And he was like, he called it the link between the bridge between Fargo and No Country for Old Men. And I thought that was so cool. I love thinking about it that way. He was like, look, those movies don't need a bridge, but it's cool to have one, and I kind of agree with him. And one of my favorite movies of all time is Treasure of the Sierra Madre. I thought about that the whole time I was, rewatching A Simple Plan. You have three guys that are, greed just starts corrupting all of them. And that's one of the best places to start a story at or start a movie at. So the history of A Simple Plan is crazy. Just what it went through to get made. At one point, Ben Stiller was going to adapt the book. Ben Stiller apparently is the one who helped Scott B. Smith. They wrote the screenplay and kind of restructured it over 9 months. And Scott B. Smith credits Ben Stiller for teaching him how to write movies. Very cool. Very interesting tidbit from a guy in the late 90s who's doing fucking Happy Gilmore, and and there's something about Mary and shit like that. So that's really, really neat. And of course, Sam Raimi is the director, but he was the fourth choice. There's a bunch of other people who were going to do it, who were going to tackle it. And it came to him, and I think he's the perfect guy, and it just kind of counters everything that he's all about. You watch you watch Evil Dead or Army of Darkness or, you know, Drag Me to Hell, and it's just this disgusting, funny, like dark, nasty experimentation with film. And A Simple Plan is a movie's movie. And I love that. I love that about his career, that he has those different things. And you can kind of credit him for being the gateway of superhero movies being what they are today. You know, those first two Spider-Man movies are so important to like how we see superhero films now. You know, that my favorite scene from maybe any fucking superhero movie ever is that Doc Ock scene when the fucking tentacles on the arms, you know, come out, and it's straight horror. It's a horror scene. It's so Sam Raimi, and it's like, oh my god, this is like a huge big budget Sony production, and they put this in it with Alfred Molina, this amazing character actor playing Doc Ock, which is such a wild fucking character to play. I love Sam Raimi for, even if he just did that, I would love him for that. But he has so much other shit. You know, he has like 16, 17 movies at this point, and I would say like 12 of them are really good. That's a good batting average, you know. And I don't know. He's like 60 now, and I think people should talk about him more in the mainstream.
I agree 100%. I feel like I've grown up with Sam Raimi's films as just part of who I am. I think he's the greatest director when it comes to the to showing possession, and not just in The Evil Dead. I mean, A Simple Plan very much deals with possession, you know, being possessed by greed and paranoia and jealousy. Film like, you know, Oz the Great and Powerful, you know, the Wicked Witch of the West gets consumed by jealousy over her sister, and that possession turns her into the witch. Fucking the new one, Doctor Strange, there's very much I won't reveal it here in case you guys haven't seen it yet, but there is a character who is possessed by a drive to find something again, and it consumes them. Sam Raimi brings that to every production he's a part of, which is so cool. It's this through line of just, you know, some form of the Deadites in some way, just in different, you know, if it's money, if it's power, if it's greed, it's always some kind of possession. And I love that that's become kind of his thing.
Hell yeah. Very cool. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool to do movies like this. We do a lot of massive, you know, fucking game-changing type films on Oscar Sunday. You know, we just did Silence of the Lambs last week. We did episode 90 through 100. There were these kind of like we did Deathly Hallows Part 2. You know, we were doing some huge major films, and it feels good to kind of like, part of why we started this show was to highlight movies like this that like got 1 or 2 nominations and maybe have been under the radar. We love doing movies like this. It's kind of like at our core, kind of marrying why we started the podcast thing and Filmgazm and doing genre films with Oscar and, you know, kind of prestigious films. So this is kind of like, I feel like we're right at home doing this movie. And I feel right at home doing another top 5, man. I love doing top 5s with you. It's so much fun to kind of guess where you're going to go with your stuff. And we haven't done a year top 5 in over 20 episodes. The last one we did was Up in the Air. We did top 5 2009 films. That was like episode 77 or 78. Damn. We haven't done that. That was like back in November last year. So yeah, we haven't done that, you know, in a long time. We've done, you know, we did Pixar Character Hall of Fame and Harry Potter Character Hall of Fame, and we did top 5 Spike Lee movies. And we brought Caleb on for some episodes. Like, we've done all kinds of different things, but we haven't done. I love these year top 5s because you get to talk about potentially 5 different filmmakers, completely 5 different types of movies. So I'm excited to kind of just bounce around and have some fun here. I think 1998 is a great year. I think 99 is always cited as this monstrous, you know, game-changing year, but I think 98 has a lot of great stuff to offer. And I know you and I both have some personal favorites from that year. So whenever you're ready, if you want to talk about 1998 a little bit, go ahead. But whenever you're ready, let's hear your number 5.
All right, 98, very interesting. I noticed a lot of genre films overpower this year for me. I went entirely personal favorites for my 5. There's no, I got no one to impress. There's no Shakespeare in Love. Like I don't even have Saving Private Ryan in here, and I do love that movie.
Wow. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm going.
Okay.
I'm going
All
deep,
right.
deep Connor tracks here.
I think I can guess. I think we're both gonna have. I think there's two. I think there's two movies on my list that you'll have. One of them being pretty obvious, but
Yeah.
I'm very interested. I think I could guess yours, but I'm really curious to hear if you went with those. Because I've gotten to know you pretty well over the past few years.
Yeah, these top fives between you and me almost become an exercise of like, how well do I know him when it comes to this?
Exactly.
Like we're playing our own private mental game show. My number five. Yeah, my number five is a film that I've always loved. I don't care to hear. I don't believe any of the hatred for this film. I think it's a gem. I think it's delightful. It is 1998's Small Soldiers.
Let's go.
Gremlins meets Toy Story, and Joe Dante doesn't fucking care. I love it. It's exactly the same story as Gremlins, almost by the second. It's hilarious. And it's just, these two toy designers work at a toy company that was recently bought by a global munitions company. And Dennis Leary is like, hey, make these soldier toys work like they do in the commercial. And Jay Moore and David Cross are like, how do we do that? So Jay Moore puts these super advanced munitions chips in the toys, and it creates artificial intelligence, and these toys go amok and try to take over a neighborhood. It's amazing. It's so much fun. Tommy Lee Jones plays Major Chip Hazard, the leader of the soldiers, and the rest of the soldiers are the fucking Wild Bunch or the Dirty Dozen. Like, it's made up of old school character actors like Ernest Borgnine. It's crazy. Frank Langella plays the leader of the alien creatures that they're hunting, and then I think it was Phil Hartman's last movie. And the supporting cast is just great, and the soundtrack's awesome, and it's fun. Joe Dante is one of the best at fun movies, and I think this is one of his most underrated films. I love watching it all the time, and it's been one of my favorites since I was a kid.
Hell yeah, Small Soldiers kicks ass. I remember seeing this at a pretty young age as well, and kind of thinking, oh, this is much different than Toy Story.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, those things are really important when you're a kid and you watch things that are, I love Toy Story to death. This is not trying to degrade that movie at all. It's it's pretty mainstream. It's pretty by the numbers. Okay. Yeah. Pretty a story we've seen, all right, be yourself and rise above. Small Soldiers is let's just flip that upside down and just really have some fun with it.
Well, one thing I noticed watching it, after doing everything we've done with these shows, is I noticed that all of Tommy Lee Jones' dialogue is repurposed from war movies. Everything he says is from Patton or from Here to Eternity, or it's all some war quote that's just been tweaked a little bit to match the situation. I love that so much.
Yeah.
So
that's like some Rango shit where it's if you really love film, you'll catch that stuff,
like him just like Chip walking in front of a puzzle of the American flag and addressing his troops and giving half of Patton's speech. It was this is no kid's gonna get this, but film fans are gonna freak out right now.
Yeah.
I love that
1970 classic, fucking George C. Scott. Yeah, no, it's really, really cool. Great pick. I didn't expect that one to be here. I knew you loved it. I have a soft spot for it too. I haven't seen it in a while. That might need to be on Filmgazm at some point. We could do a Small Soldiers episode. That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah.
My number 5 is a movie we've done on this show before. It's a Peter Weir classic. Truman Show. The Truman Show. Jim Carrey, in my opinion, his finest hour. One of my favorite Peter Weir movies. That guy's an absolute stud, and I think he's underrated. And we talked about this movie at great length, of course, or when it was a while back now. I would guess episode 50 something would be my guess. Somewhere in there, 50s, 60s. And we both, just were through the roof about it, and somehow within an hour and like 40 minutes, this movie just crams in all this amazing information, packs just such an emotional punch. It's a 10 out of 10 movie for me. All 5 of my movies are 10s. I love the Truman Show. It's hard to, there were movies I wanted to put in over it, but I was like, deep down, I was like, the Truman Show is so important to kind of my DNA as a movie fan, and I had to have it there. Jim Carrey's great, of course, but Ed Harris is unbelievable in this movie. Laura Linney's great. I adore the cast. I adore the writing, and I think Jim Carrey, like, it's one of the ultimate snubs for him. Of course, he doesn't have a lot of love from the Academy, but this one in particular is like, man, where are you guys? It's like he's absolutely lights out in this movie, and to not get a nomination is kind of bonkers. But this ceremony, the 71st Academy Awards, we'll talk about at the end of the show, is just, there's a lot of mistakes in my opinion, and one of them is Jim Carrey not being up.
Well, my number 4 is The Truman Show, so I'll just go into it.
Beautiful.
Yeah, this movie's fantastic. That was such a great episode.
Yeah, it was so much fun.
I've always loved Jim Carrey, and seeing him step into drama for the first real time in this movie was great. I love Truman's determination to figure out just what in the hell is going on in his weird little existence he can't quite figure out. I love it. Like, just his wife throwing, plugs for like a coffee commercial into arguments, and just being like, what the hell are you talking about?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with anything? Like, I love that. I love that Ed Harris did his role in like 3 days and got an Oscar nomination for playing Christoph, this totalitarian, like almost dictator who has been ruling Truman's life against his will his entire life. It brings up such crazy questions of, like, your own existence, and just, I think it became an actual mental illness for people who think that their life is a TV show. Like, that's an actual mental illness that was inspired by this film, which is crazy, but kind of neat. And yeah, this is just such a very funny film, a very dramatic film, has one of the most touching endings I've ever seen, and a delight. Like, if you haven't seen The Truman Show, you're missing out. It's a real gem of Jim Carrey's career of the 90s, just one of Peter Weir's greatest films, and that is saying something. So yeah, definitely check this out. I knew we were both going to have this one.
Yeah, me too. This is one of the ones I was like, I'll be shocked if we don't both talk about it at some point. Yeah, I think it's a pretty genius movie. It's one of those movies that had to be made, and it was just up to who's going to be in it, who's going to direct it, who's going to be in control. It could have been a piece of shit, but instead it's a total gem. And yeah, like, it's, I make a lot of lists on Letterboxd of like all my favorite movies from each year, and when I think 1998, this is probably one of the first 2 movies I think about, like, just kind of in general the year. And I don't see how anybody with like what pulse wouldn't like this movie. It has that going for it. That's not what these top 5s are about. It's about, like you said, connection, but it has that. I think it can appeal to the masses, but it also just like touches me and it like reaches my soul. And I fucking love some of the dialogue, of like, somebody help me, I'm being spontaneous. I really, really like all that stuff. And I like how kind of creepy it is, eerie it is. I love that scene when he's driving and he hears on the radio where he's about to turn and what street he's about to be on, and he's starting to put things together. And it's like, oh man, like, it's like a thriller. It's so cool. It's like a horror movie at times. Like, what the fuck, man? They're really messing with this guy's head. So yeah, I adore it. So that's your number 4.
No.
My number 4, this would come as no surprise. Wes Anderson's Rushmore, his second movie. One of my favorite writers. I've already referenced Adam Naiman. I might as well go ahead and reference someone else. Sean Fennessy. He's a wonderful podcaster, wonderful writer, and just a movie voice out there that I think people should pay attention to. He says Rushmore is one of the best movies that's about a psychopath.
Yeah.
You got Max Fisher, who's just completely insane and a control freak and is in love with a teacher in this movie. On paper, it's like this movie is fucked and like shouldn't work, but God, it does. It works so well. It is Wes Anderson's coming out party. Bottle Rocket did not do very well in 1996, but there are people who did believe in the vision and believed that this guy had a different kind of touch that needed to be tapped into. So he got a little bit more money, was able to make Rushmore, which is, it's Jason Schwartzman playing a kid who's in high school who thinks he's, fucking 40 years old and like the king of the world. Great stuff from Bill Murray, great stuff from Olivia Williams. All of the kind of Brian Cox is amazing in this. Seymour Castle as Jason Schwartzman dad is an absolute dream. Luke Wilson has a little bit in it towards the end. That's great. I love Rushmore. I have a Rushmore poster in my fucking kitchen, so it's one of the first Criterion editions I ever bought. It's one of the first Wes Anderson movies I saw, which I think that's the case for most people who are like big fans of his. It's one of those that hits you and you're like, okay, this guy's got something that's for me. And maybe I would have to really think about this, but one of my very favorite Wes Anderson scenes ever is when Bill Murray jumps into the pool, he's holding a drink, like a whiskey Coke, and he's smoking a cigarette at the same time, and he jumps into the pool with them both in his hand, and that's great stuff. He also runs up to a child who's playing basketball and blocks his shot out of nowhere. It's just this, what the fuck? Like only Bill Murray could pull this off. So I've always loved the character of Herman Bloom. This movie fucking rules. I hope people, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's incredible. It's super accessible, like the Truman Show. So go see it. Do yourself a favor. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I knew this one was going to be on your list. I'm glad I decided to go ahead and just zoom through all of Wes Anderson's films back when The French Dispatch came out. Just funny. It's the only time I've ever done like serious prep work for an episode that didn't happen.
Yeah, but aren't you glad you did it?
Yeah, I do. I feel like a more complete person having watched all of those movies. But yeah, Rushmore was interesting. At first I didn't like it at first. Like I took the entire movie for me to appreciate it, which has never really happened. Like most of the time I make a decision on whether or not I like a movie or not about halfway through. But this time I was kind of like weighing my options. Like, am I liking this or not? Like, is this good or what? And by the time the film was over, I was like, okay, that's pretty good.
Okay. I feel that. I think it does take you on a journey of
like
what the fuck am I watching? And then, okay.
Yeah, at first I hated this kid, this obnoxious asshole who's like lusting after a teacher and trying to sabotage what could be a healthy relationship. And like, but at the end, he kind of realizes like, life goes on. And I like that. But at the same time, you're like, this kid's probably going to kill somebody down the road. Like, this is not a healthy human being.
No, he is a freak of nature. Yeah. Yeah, he's so good. And he's kind of like a prototype for Wes Anderson characters, these like obsessed, almost possessed characters that are just so about what they're doing and kind of their world and getting everybody on board. Like, you have to be on board with my vision. It's cool. It's like super interesting. And it's, Wes Anderson went to a private school in Houston. And this is a private school that he goes to, Max Fisher. So you can see kind of he's getting some stuff off his chest, I think, about that experience. And I love that about Wes. Well, he also there's a few things that happen that are about to happen over and over throughout his movies, even in The French Dispatch. Like at the beginning of the film, there's the like montage of all the different, what do you fucking call them? Different like clubs that Max Fisher's in.
Oh, the extracurriculars.
Yes, correct. Yeah, it's been a while since I've been in school. Thank you. And Making Time by The Creation, great band, is playing. It's like bam, 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 and it's showing all the different. He's like in the Beekeepers. He's part of like the Mathletes and all these different things that he does. Such like a genius touch, great character development within 2 minutes. And Wes Anderson's like has always been, in my opinion, the king of that. Of pairing like good pop rock music from the 60s with, any era of time. So I love that he's just so fucking good at that, and it's one of my favorite things. Yeah, Rushmore is, it's like very dear to my heart, and it might not even be one of my 5 favorite Wes Anderson movies, but Jesus Christ, do I love it.
Well, I feel like Wes Anderson for you, I feel like a top 5 is a
I
constantly shifting entity. Like sometimes it's Rushmore's there, sometimes it's not, sometimes Grand Budapest is number 1, sometimes it's number 2. Like he's just that kind of guy.
Yeah. I think Grand Budapest is pretty clearly his best movie. Overall, it's just like, dude, this guy's at the top of his game. But like my favorite's Ball Rocket. I just have so much fun. I have so much fun watching Ball Rocket, and I'm a huge Darjeeling fan, which Darjeeling gets some shit, and I understand it. I hear it wholeheartedly, but I have a fucking blast watching that movie. Like you said, I love them all. I mean, I even love The French Dispatch, so it's one of my favorite movies of last year. And some people were saying that's lower tier Wes Anderson. That's fine. I love them all.
Yeah, lower tier Wes Anderson is still like, light years away from what a lot of modern filmmakers are going to be able to ever do in their career. So, sure, I'll take it.
Yeah, miss me with that. Yeah. All right. So you're number 3. What do you got?
My number 3, another film that I've loved since I was a kid. And as I've grown up, I've realized how socially problematic this film is. And it's going to feature heavily in the thesis I'm going to be writing and constantly plugging throughout this podcast, because that's going to be the next 2 or 3 years of my life. But The Mask of Zorro.
Ooh, okay. All right.
This film features Anthony Hopkins playing a Spaniard named Diego de la Vega. That alone is pretty fucked up. But you've also got Catherine Zeta-Jones, also Welsh, playing his daughter, Elena, and putting on a pretty thick Spanish accent. And ouch. This was 98. We should have known better. However, we have Antonio Banderas as Zorro, and he fucking rules. This movie is fun, exciting, and Zorro, to me, the predecessor to Batman. So obviously, I have some love for this character. James Horner's score is so epic and exciting and fun, built on like flamenco dancing and like Spanish music, and it's so cool. And ultimately, it's a revenge thriller. And soldier kills Antonio Banderas' brother. He trains to be Zorro so he could fuck this guy up. That's what it is. That's the whole movie. And I had it on tape as a kid, and I used to just put it on, watch it, rewind it, watch it again all day. I've always loved The Mask of Zorro. I know it's got issues. It's upsetting, the way it kind of spit in the face of representation. But I do think it's a film that is worth watching, is if you can accept those mistakes, and it's still worth it for Antonio Banderas' epic performance as Zorro and for the story. So yeah, I'll defend this movie, even though I know it's got problems.
I like that. You're willing to go to bat for it. Yeah. I was looking at my letterbox, and I thought about this movie, and I was like, man, I need to revisit this because of those reasons, and because I love revenge tales.
2 Oscar nominations. Just want to say that.
Yeah, there you go. 98's got a bunch of random ones. That's a good call. My number 3 is actually a movie I just watched for the first time maybe a week ago. I don't recommend doing this for your top 5, but I was pretty floored by this movie. And it's a Danish film, and it was actually, I really wish it would have been nominated, because I would fucking love to do it on the show. It was entered as the Danish, representative for the Oscars from this year, but it didn't make the cut because only 5 foreign films make the cut, and you can't have every country. So that's just like that's the nature of that category, and how it's like, oh man, we're missing out on a lot of great movies that we could be exposed to. I wanted to watch some different 1998 films this week leading up to A Simple Plan, just for fun, just like, oh, let's just check out more stuff. Like, why not? So I watched a movie that my friend at work recommended called SLC Punk. great movie. Like by far and away my favorite Matthew Lillard performance. He's amazing in that movie. That's a cool ass movie. Didn't quite make the cut. I watched a Japanese movie called Afterlife that blew me away. Had such a cool premise of people, when you die, you go to this kind of limbo state. And during that limbo state, there's workers that basically try to help you pick one memory from your life to take to the afterlife. And it is so cool. And the way they recreated it is they do it on film. They film it and they give you that tape to take with you to the afterlife. And that's like all you have, is like this one memory. And so you get to choose and you get to kind of like be your own director. And it was such a like, oh my God, it was such an emotional, amazing movie with all these like huge ideas packed into it. That movie almost made the cut, but I was like, I can't take out Truman Show. But then I watched this movie called The Celebration, directed by Thomas Vinterberg, one of my favorite guys these days. This movie is not only incredibly filmed and is like a proper piece of filmmaking, it's fucking dark as hell, very funny, and has some unbelievable performances. My favorite being Thomas Bo Larson, who's amazing in Another Round and amazing in The Hunt. He plays one of the main characters in The Celebration. It's a movie about this father. He's turning 60 and he owns this estate. It's like a hotel, and he's having a party. So he invites, his family and all of his friends to this party. And when I tell you that this is like one of the most athletic pieces of filmmaking where the camera is just on a swivel and is moving around, where you have you have like a headache by the end of it. You're like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's this like just jaunt that you have to go through. And it made me laugh like a fucking hyena, the same way, some of like those Coen movies do, where you're like, what the fuck? This is so fucked up. But then there were times where I was borderline about to cry, the same way I do with some Coen films, where I'm like, Jesus, this is like way too realistic. And I was like, I have to include it. This movie hit me so hard. I have to include it in my top 5. It's a movie I'll take to the fucking grave with me. I love it so much. And I carry a lot of importance when a movie kind of opens a whole other door for me. And this movie is, people call it Dogma #1, because in 1995, Thomas Vinterberg and Lars von Trier, they started a movement called Dogma 95. And it was basically a code between the two filmmakers and some other foreign filmmakers of, hey, let's stick to our guns. Let's not conform to anything that's happening around us in Hollywood or different industries. Let's make films that we want to make. And let's stay true to that code for as long as we make movies. And so they wrote a whole manifesto. It's incredible. You can find it online. These guys like wrote this thing that's super captivating about the immersion that should happen when you're making a movie, and the experience that it should be this thing that scares you and frightens you and makes you laugh and has all those emotions packed into it. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. So I'm like, now I have all these other movies I need to watch because I didn't really know about this. And The Celebration is the first proper Dogma movie from that movement. And I didn't even know that till after I watched it, and I was like, this movie just opened up the floodgates for me. I finally have a reason to go into Lars von Trier's career. I haven't really dug into his stuff yet. And it gives me more of a reason to go back and watch all of Vinterberg's stuff, not just, the newer stuff that's critically acclaimed. It's like, no, this is like a filmmaker I truly appreciate. And because of that, I simply have to include it. It is so good. And Connor, you've got to check this movie out, man. It's on Criterion right now. I highly recommend The Celebration. The Danish title is Festen, Festen. Please go watch it. It is so impactful, and I don't think it's completely up everybody's alley as far as the way it's made, but the story is like, holy shit, this is good. It puts that show Succession. It makes Succession look like a little child compared to what's happening in The Celebration and how intense it is and how funny it is. It's just incredible performances. I don't want to speak about it too much as far as what really happens in the plot, but let's just say things go awry quickly.
Thanks to you, I was introduced to Thomas Vinterberg, and I absolutely adored Another Round and The Hunt. So I've yeah, I'll check this out 100%.
Yeah, it's great, man. I was like, oh, I'll watch some 1998 movies just for fun, not thinking one of them would be like, no, let me sneak in that top 5. It's like, fuck, now I got to cut out movies I love. I got to cut out He Got Game. What the fuck? Like, this sucks.
Damn, this carved out He Got Game, huh? That was the one you had to cut.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's a few. I mean, I'm a huge fan of A Bug's Life. I'm a huge fan of Kirikou and the Sorceress. There's some others I won't say, yeah, because I don't want to step on yours. But yeah, I love 1998. So, but He Got Game was probably going to be number 5. Yeah.
Damn. All right. This movie must really have something.
Yeah, it ruined me for a whole day. I was like, Christ.
Killer. So that's to my 2 then.
Yes, that was my number 3. So yeah, here we go. 2 and 1. What do we got?
My number 2 should come as no surprise. If you know me, you know how much I love Blade.
Okay. Yeah. So Blade was also one that would probably be my top 10. Yeah. I didn't want to say that.
This is the true start of Marvel's entry into superhero film.
Yep. You could definitely point it back to there, man. Yeah.
Yeah. They had nothing prior to this.
Yeah.
Unless you count that really weird made for TV 1990 Captain America movie with J.D. Salinger's kid, which I don't think anybody does.
Nah, I didn't even know that happened.
I know. Blade is a perfect vampire movie, a perfect superhero movie, and a perfect action movie. It's everything. And Wesley Snipes just was born to play Blade. And it's also the only thing I've ever enjoyed Steven Dorff in, because he doesn't really do much. I've also found it funny that a couple years ago he was like given Black Widow shit. He's like, superhero movies are nothing. It's all just fanfare and empty movies. And I'm like, motherfucker, you were in Blade.
Yeah,
you were like Deacon Frost. Shut the fuck up.
That's your like crowning achievement. Yeah, it's like, is that Nino Brown? Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah. Chris Christopherson kills it as Whistler. I never would have thought, I would ever buy a mentor-mentee relationship between Chris Christopherson and Wesley Snipes, but here we are. And it's incredibly violent. I love that Marvel's first real superhero movie is like has people exploding, has ridiculously violent, blood and like viscera and just amazing gore effects. And as much as I love this movie, the reason it's here in number 2 is because I think this has the greatest opening scene in film history.
Oh, let's go.
Just some douchebag and his girl are driving through, I think it's supposed to be New York. And they're, she's like, I got a surprise for you. They go to some nightclub and a meat factory and they're just dancing around. And everyone's giving this guy the side eye. The music's pumping. And all of a sudden, blood starts shooting from the ceiling. And you realize, holy shit, he's the only human being in that room. It's just vampires. And he's a snack. The way they did that with the music and the build up and this, you see Steven Dorff just for a second. You don't even know who he is yet. Donald Logue's over there getting blown and you're like, what the fuck is going on here? And then the blood hits and you're just like, oh my God. And then Blade shows up with no blood and starts fucking people up. How do you not immediately love this movie? It is so good. And the final fight scene with like the blood god, some other fuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill. I love that line. And then he just kicks the fucking syringe right between his eyes. This is one of the most badass movies ever made. I love Blade to death. It's such a epic movie. I'm excited to see what Mahershala Ali brings to the role, but this is Wesley Snipes' role. Like he'll always be Blade.
Yeah, I agree. I love Ali just as much as the next guy, but Snipes, I mean, this is what Snipes is born to do. Blade. I figured that would be in yours. Yeah, so I didn't want to step on it. I love this movie. Definitely somewhere in my top 10. I'd have to really look at it, but yeah, the movie is just so goddamn good, and it's one that we've both kind of brought up at random points on different shows. I remember we did New Jack City, right?
We did we did Blade and we did New Jack City as the bonus.
That's
when we were still doing that.
Okay, yeah, yeah. It was a long time ago, and just like, oh my god, what a cool 1-2 punch. Um, mm, I think those two, I love those two roles, and then his role as Sidney Dean in White Men Can't Jump is like, oh my god, this is just a movie star's performance. He's incredible in that with Woody Harrelson. Yeah, I love Snipes. Uh, Mahershala Ali is kind of a completely different type of beast when it comes to like performing, and he's gotten all kinds of critical acclaim and success and awards, and he's already got 2 Oscar wins under his belt, so he's a just completely different animal. Um, but yeah, I'm with you. I think Snipes kind of owns this until it's completely snatched away from him, and I don't see that happening. So great pick, fucking Blade, awesome movie. Another one of those that when I think 1998, it's like Blade.
Yeah, that's
Blade.
That my number one of the first 2 films I think of.
Yeah, I think we have the same number one.
I figured we would.
My number 2. This should come as just no surprise if you know me. It's John Dahl's Rounders. It is my favorite poker movie of all time. One of my favorite gambling movies of all time. It's the only movie that I genuinely like from John Dahl. And John Dahl was actually, I think, the first guy that was chosen to direct A Simple Plan, but instead did Rounders. So it's like, thank God that happened. Thank God. The movie lords were with us in 1998 when that was happening. I'm sure. This is Rounders is for me like a movie. I know it's not this apex of filmmaking, or like it's just so much goddamn fun, and it has Matt Damon and Edward Norton at such an interesting point in their careers where they're about to take off and become these incredible actors. Fresh off of Good Will Hunting for Damon, and Edward Norton's about to be in Fight Club. They're about to just kind of take over, and I love those 2 characters. I often think about them, and of course John Malkovich giving one of the most audacious, ridiculous performances as Teddy KGB. With the Oreos and the wild accent that he's going for, it just fucking works. John Turturro is great in this movie. Martin Landau is in this movie. Like, what the fuck? Like, why? I don't know, but he's great. My number 1 is definitely a movie I've seen the most, but then it's Rounders, and that's kind of why I went with it. It's like comfort food to me. I throw it on. I immediately am smiling the whole way through. Fucking love Rounders. I hear people who are like, oh, this isn't like an Oscar worthy movie. I don't really care. That's fine. Don't really give a shit. I love Rounders. It's a 10 out of 10, just fucking movie that's made for me, right up my alley.
Yeah, I almost had Rounders myself, but I had to be honest. I liked Small Soldiers a lot more, but that's just, that's nothing wrong with Rounders. That's just
yeah, it's totally fine. Yeah.
And I knew you were going to have it, so I knew we were going to talk about
it. Yeah. I
Rounders
can't not have it.
Rounders is one of the best poker movie, maybe the best poker movie ever made. So much fun and just a delightful movie.
Yeah, I think Casino Royale is obviously going for something completely different. Its poker scenes are so good and so dark and scary. But Rounders is like the more like, this is what it's like to be a poker player. Yeah. Casino Royale is like, I mean, you're not getting into that room, like you have to be like a 1%er to get into a room like that to play poker. Rounders is more about the player. It's like player's player movie.
Yeah.
And Mike McD and Worm are like, those guys are everywhere.
Yeah. Casino Royale is a Bond movie that deals with poker. Rounders is a poker movie. It's about poker.
100%.
And yeah, Damon and Norton working together to take Teddy KGB for a ride is so. Yeah. I love Malkovich's commitment to that accent. It's beautiful.
It's crazy how it works. It's one of the most absurd. You've seen Anaconda, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So John Voight doing that stupid, crazy accent is like, that doesn't quite work. But for some reason, Malkovich in Rounders, it works. I can't explain it.
It's because it's Malkovich. Like, that dude could put on any voice and we'd believe it. He just has it's commitment straight up. John Voight looked like he would rather be anywhere else, but Malkovich was like, I'm going to play Russian. Okay, give me 5 minutes.
Yeah, let me go into the restroom and just kind of work this out on my own, and I'll come back in a second. Yeah, I do think California Split, Robert Altman, 1974, is a like incredible poker movie. Kind of shows the nastiness of that degenerate fucking like I gotta play. Owning Mahoney is like I gotta fucking play. You know, Uncut Gems messes with a different type of gambling, but man, I love movies that go to that like nasty side of I'm not going to tell anybody about this that cares about me because I look like a goddamn fool right now. You know, and Worm is in Rounders is Edward Norton's character is very much a fool and is like a sucker for the game. And Mike McDee's like, why do I have to be so good at this? You know, why do I have to be such a good poker player? But he loves it, man. You know, when he's in the thick of it, he fucking loves it. God, Rounders is great. I could talk about it forever.
Yeah, I think we should do that on Filmgazm at some point. Regrettably, it doesn't have any Oscar nominations, but we could. Yeah, fuck. Filmgazm's a goddamn free for all playground at this point. Bring it on.
Yeah, look. Obviously, we love the Oscars. We love a lot of the movies that get nominated, but at the same time, I'm like, no, this one's for us.
Yeah,
fuck you and your Academy and your people, your old white guys voting on movies. Rounders is for us.
That's awesome. Okay, so number one, I'm pretty sure we're both in the same ballpark here. It doesn't get any better than Lebowski.
Actually, I went with Milan here. I'm just kidding. Yeah, yeah. Lebowski is like it's not even a question.
I was gonna try to fool you into thinking it was Rush Hour, but I couldn't do it.
Rush Hour is great, but yeah, come on.
I mean, what more can be said? The Big Lebowski is one of the greatest films of all time. It's probably my favorite comedy. It's my favorite Coen Brothers movie, and it's hilarious and it's timeless. It never gets old. I could watch this movie all day and still laugh. And it's just a great character study, a great weird kind of neo-noir Chinatown with a stoner kind of movie. It's awesome.
Yeah. Jesus, I don't even have the words anymore for this is one of those movies. It's definitely up in the upper echelon of my favorite movies of all time. And for those reasons, of course, like the things that it combines, the characters it's dealing with, the actors that they chose for it, the soundtrack, Christ almighty, the kind of abruptness of it is one of my favorite things about it, where they're, I think a lot of movies can have symbolism and take forever to fucking talk about it. Big Lebowski's like takes 1 minute for them to be like, this is what this is about. This is what these characters represent. This is what these characters represent. And you just start kind of going with it. But yeah, it's one of those where it's like, I don't even know what to say anymore. It's like, in my mind, it's just so perfect. I don't need to kind of justify it to anybody. In my head, when I'm watching The Big Lebowski, is about as happy as I can get. Is about as comfortable as I can get. And it doesn't really need to be any kind of special scenario. It's like it could be 1 a.m. on a Monday night, and I'm like, let's throw The Big Lebowski on. I can't sleep, and that's like one of the best moments of my week. And for that reason, it's like head and shoulders above these other movies. There's just no question. I think you and I, when we were like, let's do a top 5 1998, we both knew. We didn't talk about it, but we both knew we're going to be able to talk about Big Lebowski for a little bit, and that's always fun. But yeah, it is one of those where it's like when people are like, oh, like 1 through 10, like what would you rate it? It's like, well, 15. I don't know. I don't even know anymore. It doesn't really matter. It's just in my mind, it's like one of the most perfect American movies ever, and I adore everything about it. So it's one of those too. When I start talking about it, I'm like, I think I want to go watch it now. So because the only place that I can go to explain my feelings about it is watching it. Yeah, that's the best. That's the best.
I think I quote this movie more than I quote anything else. I will randomly just throw out like, you're killing your father, Larry, and things like that. Just the randomness of this movie. Over the line. Just it's just comfort food. It's part of me now.
Yeah. Yeah, I say mark it an 8, dude. Like a lot. Like to where it's like it doesn't even matter. It doesn't even flow with the conversation that other people are having. They're like, what?
If I find myself like, explaining something and someone wasn't paying attention or something, I will randomly either throw out "Shut the fuck up, Donnie," or "Life does not stop and start at your convenience, you miserable piece of shit."
Yeah.
It's perfect. I am the walrus. Everything.
I can get you a toe. Yeah. I'm gonna finish my coffee. I'm not going anywhere. John Goodman in that movie, like Walter, is top 3 favorite movie characters for me of all time. I don't know. I've never really done that exercise, but if I were thinking of characters off the top of my head, he's one of the first few that come to my head. I'm obsessed with John Goodman's performance in that movie. It's the definition of lights out.
Oh, without a doubt. I think this is one of the first movies that we bonded over. So this has always been a special part of our friendship, this movie. And I wouldn't have it either way.
Yeah, the Coens were, I think, the first filmmakers, where it's like, oh, okay, this guy knows what he's talking about, because the Coens, there's and I guess we can go into it. There's multiple sides of being a Coen fan and like kind of appreciating what they've done. There's kind of and I don't mean to like degrade people, but there's a surface level Coen fan who's like, yeah, dude, the Big Lebowski, like stoner movie. It's like, not really. Like, fuck that. Like when I see a Big Lebowski poster and it's at like some fucking frat house and like the guys don't even understand what they're watching, I kind of get angry. And it's like someone who wears a Bob Marley shirt and can only name like 3 songs by Bob Marley. It's like, fuck you. You don't get it. You're not really trying to understand the movie or the music or whatever the art, what it represents. The Lebowski is saying so much more, and then it's the same guys who are like, what's Miller's Crossing? And you're like, fuck you. Like, it's one of those kind of like, I hate to be superior, but I can't help it. When it comes to the Coens, it's like their filmography is so deep and has so much connection to it. There's things that are just intertwining over and over with their filmography, and it's so special. I can't stand like that surface level. And then there's people who are freaks like us, where it's like we should probably fucking slow down. Like we're like, take your foot off the gas just a little bit. A Serious Man is not that good, Austin. Like it's okay. Who hurt you? But I'm definitely in that latter category where it's like I kind of stand and die by those guys and what they've done. There's like 8 of their movies that I see as like damn near masterpieces, and Lebowski and No Country would be at the top of I like, if you don't really get this, I don't really understand what you're watching. Those movies are like revolutionary on a whole different level. So yeah, love the dudes to death. There was no doubt in my mind Lebowski was going to be the movie we talked about here at the end.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's long overdue that we finally brought this to Filmgazm. I don't know what's holding us back. We'll do it at some point, probably this year.
Because we know it's like a holy grail type movie. It's why I've held off so long on some of my favorite movies from Oscar Sunday. It's like, it's like that sigh of like, I gotta really go into this, because I like, my voice is going to be gone by the end of the episode talking about Big Lebowski, It's going
to be like a 3.5 hour episode of us just pretty much reciting the script.
Yeah, it could definitely be that, but I would love to really structure something and really figure out how to go about an episode about the Big Lebowski. Because we could, like you said, we could go on for a very long time.
Yeah, this was fun.
Yeah, good list. Give me a recap of your.
Okay. Number 5, Small Soldiers. Number 4, The Truman Show. Number 3, The Mask of Zorro. Number 2, Blade. Number 1, The Big Lebowski.
Nice. Love it. Love it. What was the hardest one to cut?
Oh, admittedly, I think it was Rounders.
Okay.
I really liked that movie, and I
Yeah.
really wanted it there, but it's like Small Soldiers. I can't help it.
What about A Simple Plan?
It's
Where's
good.
that at?
Simple Plan's good. I don't think it quite makes maybe my top like 15. It's good, but I don't know if I'll probably watch it again, but I don't know if I'm going to count it among like an echelon.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's somewhere in my top 10. I wrote down 12 essentially honorable mention movies, which would be He Got Game, Mulan. I love Mulan. SLC Punk, Afterlife, Prince of Egypt. I'm obsessed with Prince of Egypt. Croupier, awesome, fucking another good gambling movie about the dealer from the dealer's perspective. Blade, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, fucking love that movie. American History X, A Bug's Life, and Kirikou and the Sorceress, and then A Simple Plan. So yeah, I could do like a top 20 and I would be comfortable. I love this year. I think it's fantastic. But I came down to number 5, The Truman Show, number 4, Rushmore, number 3, The Celebration, number 2, Rounders, and number 1, The Big Lebowski. So we had the 2 Big Lebowski and Truman Show. I figured we both have.
Yeah, very nice. Not really a lot of surprises on either front, really. I figured what was in your top 5, apart from The Celebration, because I didn't know about that one, but I was like Rounders, Lebowski, like, yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah,
Rushmore, of course.
Yeah. I've got Cohen's. I've got fucking Poker. I've got a fucking international foreign film I just watched. Wes Anderson and Peter Weir. Makes sense. Yeah. That's, you can read me like a book there. So, but yeah, this is. I love doing these. These year ones is where we get to talk about the most different kind of filmmakers. When you do a top 5 of an actor or a director, it's like obviously you're staying kind of in the same conversation, but with this I felt like we got to really reflect on why the year is so special to us. A Bug's Life is the first movie I saw in theaters. I was 3 years old and don't remember much of it, but I've always been told like, yeah, that was the first movie you saw in theaters, so pretty cool.
My parents were pretty irresponsible. They took me to the theater when I was 1, which they shouldn't have done. But
I think you need to be like 5 before you go. Yeah.
According to them, it was the live action 101 Dalmatians. So that's awesome. The first movie I saw in theaters, according to my mom.
Fantastic. Good movie. Oh man, I love that. So A Simple Plan. I'm glad you liked it. Glad you want to rewatch it. It is a movie that benefits from multiple watches, just like a lot of Raimi stuff. You gain a deeper appreciation for what he's doing and kind of the style he's going for with each movie. With A Simple Plan, similar to any movie that's like about greed, you kind of catch on to things that they're telling you what's going to happen at the very beginning of the movie. They're telling you, oh man, this is going to go south pretty quick. And I love movies that do that reward you for rewatching it. I give it a 9. I really like A Simple Plan. It's probably it's definitely one of my top 5 Raimi films. I would have to really figure out the order because I love the first 2 Spider-Mans. Of course, Evil Dead 2 is like just an absolute classic. Army of Darkness fucking rules. Drag Me to Hell fucking rules. It's hard, but it's somewhere in that top 5.
I think what it comes down to for me is it didn't feel like that much of a Raimi film to me.
Nope.
It's a movie he directed, but it doesn't like there's no,
I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
I'm trying to explain. It's like his 90s run, for instance, starts with Darkman, then you got Army of Darkness, then you got The Quick and the Dead, and then you got A Simple Plan. It's like the trajectory doesn't match here. Like, where's the weirdness of A Simple Plan? Like, there should be so much more wacky shit in this movie. But then again, maybe Raimi was trying a new flavor, which is fine. And like I said, I didn't hate it. I did like it. It's an 8 for me. I think once I realized like, oh, this is a more restrained film, I had to kind of change my mindset and then look for other stuff. which
Yeah.
was fine. That's just I see Sam Raimi's name attached, and I'm like, oh, this is gonna be fucking odd, but I'm gonna like it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I definitely think that's the case with him. He's one of those names that it's like a Cronenberg. It's like, okay, I know I'm going into something. It's gonna be really violent, really nasty, really dark. It's gonna be something. It's gonna be genre filmmaking, and it's gonna have that Cronenberg touch on it. Whether it's something with Viggo Mortensen where it's just like gritty and fucking like hardcore, or it's gonna be nasty like his 70s stuff. So
Yeah, it's
I love that.
like I'm either gonna see the inside of a monkey, or I'm gonna see a man bare his soul.
Yeah,
One of those is gonna happen today.
Yeah. And with Raimi, it's like I'm gonna either see Bruce Campbell do some cool shit, or I'm gonna see Tobey Maguire do some cool shit.
I was also I was bummed I didn't see Bruce Campbell. Like,
Yeah,
where was he?
yeah, sucks, man. Sucks. Yeah. No, I kind of like that. It's like an outlier of his stuff. To me, it's kind of like how people treat Jackie Brown for Tarantino's career. They're like, it's not Tarantino enough. It's like, well, it's a novel he's adapting. There's only so far you can go with that. I fucking love Jackie Brown. I've always cited it as probably that and Pulp Fiction are my two favorite films of his. And I like when a filmmaker can do that, can just like, whoa, what? Like, this is him too. And I like when people aren't so boxed in. And I think it's really cool. What I do think is like crazy about A Simple Plan is I completely forgot the score is composed by Danny fucking Elfman, and I was like, man, he's underused here. he's such a like grand, like chaotic, fucking incredible composer. And with A Simple Plan, it's like, hey man, let's do some Fargo shit and call it a day. It's like Danny Elfman's better than that. I mean, I love some of the score. I think it's really like eerie and matches what's going on. But Danny Elfman is just like a freak of nature when it comes to making music. And he does those Batman, Tim Burton Batman movies. And it's like, oh my God, like this is fucking lights out, just, operatic stuff. And then this is just different. So it takes like a certain taste, I think, if you know about Raimi, if you know about Elfman, and you know about Bill Paxton. This guy's a freak in so many movies in the 80s and 90s. He's the guy in Aliens he's the guy in Near Dark, Severin, who's like losing his mind. But he's playing like an all-American guy who's like, ah, shit, I'm into some trouble, and that's just, it's just different. But I don't know. I dig it. I dig The Simple Plan a lot. It's kind of right up my alley.
Fair enough. And good point that it is an adaptation of a novel, so it is going to have more of that guy's flavor than it is Raimi, especially since the guy's adapting his own book.
Correct. Yeah. He's not going to fuck with it too much. Scott. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. And I also do love that Elfman is Burton's guy and he's Raimi's guy. I love that became a partnership. He does the score for the new Doctor Strange too, and it's one of his best.
Yeah. See, that's like that's what he's capable of, is doing massive, big budget, big scale, wild stuff with the music. And then him doing this is like, sounds like Carter Burwell.
That probably wasn't an accident. I bet Raimi saw Fargo and was like, I could probably do that.
I think I can throw my hat into the ring. Yeah. I like Fargo and A Simple Plan about equally. Fargo probably just a bit more, I guess, smidge more. But A Simple Plan, man, it's got some cool performances in it.
Oh yeah, I love seeing character actors in leading roles, and Bill Paxton getting to own a movie was really cool, especially since we see this guy essentially sell his soul over the course of the film. Just what he's, I love that the tagline is like, sometimes good people do evil things. It's a great tagline, and just defines the film so perfectly. Just watching these three guys lose who they are so drastically. It's great.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Well, normally on Oscar Sunday, we kind of do things differently. But I wanted to kind of, we're into a new 100. We just did Silence of the Lambs. That was an absolute blast. We're into like a new, I don't want to say a new phase, because we're doing the same shit. We're talking about movies. We're praising them, doing top fives, doing drafts. We're always going to have fun on this show. But I do want to change how we do things a bit. We're talking about Simple Plan. I want to go ahead and jump right into the awards and talk about like our favorite things from A Simple Plan. before we go to the ceremony. I want to finish with the ceremony. I want to leave that as kind of like the end of the episode. I want the meat of this episode. I want to get into the awards quicker for our listeners and for us to just not be stepping on our own toes. And let's just dig right in. So, you know the drill. We have the Quentin Tarantino Award for best quote of the movie. A lot of good stuff in here. We have the Ennio Morricone Award for best music moment. Again, that's Danny Elfman's score. And there's a little bit of a soundtrack here. So, you can go with the needle drop if you want. We have the Philip Seymour Hoffman Award for the best performance of the movie, which I think is very tough to choose. And then we have the Roger Deakins Award for best scene of the movie. So I'll let you take it away with your Tarantino.
Rarely. I mean, it's a rare occasion here. I only have one.
How about that? A true Tarantino.
Yeah, I think going forward, I'm gonna be a little more selective. I like the way you do it, like really trying to narrow it down to one. I'm gonna try to do that too.
That doesn't mean we can't. That doesn't mean we can't riff on different quotes from the movie. But
of course,
when you're giving an award out, we never have two deacons. We never have two PSHs.
Exactly. Like, how would I feel if at the Oscars, like every other award, they're like 2 or 3 people show up and are like, "You're all winners today."
Yeah,
like, it feels like it's a child soccer game sometimes. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to work on that.
You get a ribbon. You get a ribbon. You get a ribbon. Participation. Yeah.
Exactly. And I can't stand that. Winners are winners and losers are losers. They both exist. We got to remember that.
This is true.
So my line comes from right about when they find the money, and it's Lou trying to convince Hank to take the money, and he tells, "No way,
Lou." No, Lou is so good. This is not the one I have.
Okay,
but Brent Briscoe is awesome in this movie.
He's such an asshole. Like, just the worst parts of a human being. And like, you wonder, like, why the fuck is Jacob hanging out with this guy? Like, does he resent his brother that much that he hangs out with his exact opposite?
I guess so. Yeah.
But
and where are Hank's friends? Like, do you not have any friends? Like,
I don't think he does. I think he's very much, a reserved, like, I'm not going to be here forever, so why lay roots kind of guy.
Yeah.
That's the vibe I got. Like, I'm only going to be here another 6 months. And he tells himself that every 10 years, like, it's just another 6 months. Like, yeah, he doesn't want to be here forever. Why lay roots? But Lou tells him to get him to take the money. He says, "It's the American dream in a goddamn gym bag." And
I love that line.
Yeah, it's great. It's like, yeah, this is what we all want. But as we see the film progress, like, is this really what we want? Like, is this a gift? Seems way more like a curse. But I just love that was, it's the American dream in a goddamn gym bag. Hot damn.
Yeah. I love that. I love that bit, because then I think Hank is like, basically saying like, no, it's not. It's stolen. And then Lou's like, then it's better.
I love how they keep like euphemizing it. It's like, it's not stolen. It's lost money. Like, we just found this. It's not our fault. We didn't steal this. We just happened upon it. It's such, rationalization. It's great.
Yeah, brilliant pick. I think Lou has some like amazing lines in this movie, and he's great. I'll be talking about him later with my Deacons for sure. It's kind of he's a big part of my Deacons. My Tarantino goes to it's at the beginning, towards the beginning of the film, after they find the money, and Hank convinces them, "Let me take it home. I'll watch over it," which is so fucking insane from Jacob and Lou's perspective. Like, why would you do that? Like, are you fucking? I would be like, give me my $1 million now, or I'm ruining this for everybody. Let's just cut it 3 ways now, and let's get out of here, type thing. But they decide like, oh, like, what if someone's coming for it? It's like, well, you already have decided you're taking it, so you're fucked either way. When Hank decides to take it home, and then he goes to his wife, played wonderfully by Bridget Fonda, who's really the catalyst of this movie.
Yeah,
she's the one who's fucking playing, puppet master the whole time and turns everybody. After she has a baby, she's like, we gotta get Jacob to go against Lou. Like, you just had a baby. Fucking chill out. But she's amazing in this movie. Plays Sarah. So Hank goes home. explains to Sarah like this hypothetical, right? And Sarah's like, well, if you're talking about this so-called money that you found, like where whose money was it before? And Hank's like, a bank robber's. And she's like, oh, so it's the bank's money. And he's like, all right, no, it's a drug dealer's. And she was like, Hank, I mean, this is really silly. Obviously, you want me to say something in particular. I don't know what it is, but you want me to agree with you or say that you're right or something. But I wouldn't take it. That's just me. I wouldn't. And then he pours the money on the table, and she's like, she turns into a fucking demon, and is like, just becomes possessed by this paper, by this cash. And that really, Hank not hiding it from her, turns this movie into a whole different thing, turns this whole story on its head, where now it's not just the three guys who found it. Now Sarah is like, no. I want this money. This is our money now. Let's keep it for ourselves. And like, we already have it here. Like, what else do we need to do? And then the bodies start piling up after that. So if you put two and two together, I think Sarah is kind of like the villain of this movie.
Yeah, I'll second that for sure. I mean, I love how noble she is. She's like, I wouldn't take it. It's not my money. It doesn't belong to me. It's the bank's. Yeah. Until she sees a pile of $4 million, then she turns into fucking Gollum. My precious.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. God. But I also love that earlier when they drop Lou off and Lou starts talking to his wife, Hank's, after they agreed no wives, Hank's like, I bet he's telling her right now, that fucking asshole. Immediately, as soon as he gets home, tells his wife. Like, they're all pieces of shit who you can't trust.
It's crazy that Jacob is because he's not, he's by himself. He's not with anybody. He doesn't have a wife or a girlfriend or anything. It's crazy that he's the one who ends up being like the most trustworthy, even though he's the one who kind of like, and is like staggers around and he blurts stuff out of nowhere. He's probably the guy you could trust with the money, because it's like, well, it's just him at his house. So it's just crazy. These three people, the circumstances are so wild, and that's why it makes such a good movie.
I love all the little things that come into play later. Like when Jacob just randomly blurts out at the cop, tell him about the plane.
Yeah.
And Hank, I love that, like, looks over at him like, what the fuck?
Yeah. God.
We just said. And then later on, they're like, hey, remember you said something about a plane, help out this FBI guy. They're like, it's a smart script.
Oh yeah. It's really smart. And it does those little things that a thriller does when Carl comes up, and he's like, hey, I thought you were avoiding me there for a minute, and then the dog is like right by the money and is like about to just show all of it. And fucking Hank is like, God damn it, get me out of here. Like, this is such a horrible situation. A Simple Plan does those things really fucking well, from point A to point B, just thriller stuff where it just keeps you kind of your eyes on the screen. It's not just a talky movie. It's showing you really fun stuff, really entertaining stuff.
Yeah. Tension, like just constant tension. You're just on a wire the whole time. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop, and you know it's going to happen. This is all going to go tits up. You just don't know when. And I love you. I keep the whole time I'm thinking, who's going to be the one who fucks this up? Which of these three is going to be the guy who ruins this? And it's all of them. There is no real, like, it is kind of, Hank's wife, but ultimately, I think even if she didn't know, they would have found their way there eventually.
For sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. And then you have, Gary Cole playing the fake FBI agent who like comes in and just turns the movie on its head again. And you're like, oh my God, this is nuts. That last 15 minutes is fucking genius. All right. The Ennio Morricone Award, best music moment. But did you go with Danny Elfman, part of his score?
I did. Yes.
Okay. What do you got?
I love Elfman's scores. He's just such an underappreciated film composer, I think. And the bit of music I had is right at the end of the movie when Hank ultimately decides to kill Jacob for the greater good. And the music that's playing during that part, you can just feel the weight of everything Hank has done. Everything that has led them there is in that music. And combine that with Paxton's performance in that bit, and you just have a beautiful scene of just the ultimate consequences. And I love that so much. Elfman's score really elevated that scene, and I like that.
Yeah, I think that is one of the times it just truly shines. Elfman's like, okay, I can play with this, right? That's why I chose the exact same thing. I love that scene. I love that last bit. That last 15 minutes or so is like truly captivating. And yeah, paired with what Jacob's saying, and he's like, I'm gonna kill myself if you don't do this. And he's like, I'm tired and I'm not afraid. You're like, oh my God. Fucking Billy Bob Thornton is so good in this movie. And then Hank kills his brother, after killing this fake FBI agent, honestly being the root cause of Carl dying. There's just all these bodies that pile up that are on Hank's conscience at that point. And it's just Danny Elfman is in the background like, hey, I'm keeping you right here in the mood. And that's like what a composer's for. Yeah, I love that bit of music. I like the opening title as well. When you start the movie, you're like, is this Fargo? Like, am I watching Fargo? And like, I'm okay with that. I think some people I've read on Letterboxd, some people are like, this is a ripoff of Fargo. I wouldn't go that far. I really wouldn't. I think it's going for completely different things. It's just got a very similar tone and kind of dark humor to it. And they're so close in time, 1996 and 1998. And you've got the connection of Sam Raimi and the Coens. I get that conversation, but I also think like they should be treated as their own films. I think A Simple Plan, being the novel that it is, being this incredible story about greed, and Fargo's about these two guys who are trying to kill, are getting paid to kill, and it's different. It's just got that tone and that kind of eerie music to it. So I kind of get it, but I wish people would kind of just leave them on their own.
Yeah, I mean, it is, it's two films released within 2 years of each other that deal with, crime in the snow. So
yeah.
But to me, I think because Raimi and the Coens, came up together, I'm sure it's much more of a tip of the hat than it is a straight up theft.
Exactly. You think the Coens were like, fuck you, Sam? Like we hate you, man. Like that's not what happened. That's just not what happened.
I think it'd be funny if like the Coens were really petty and like their next movie involved like a bunch of teens going up to a cabin in the woods, but that didn't happen.
The Coens are like, who should play Anton Chigurh? Bruce Campbell. Like,
sign me the fuck up. I want to live in that universe.
I would too. I'd be totally fine with that. God bless No Country for Old Men. And God bless Javier Bardem, but Bruce Campbell, that would be hilarious. Yeah, I get those things. I saw one thing that was really funny on Letterboxd where they were like, "Ooh, this new episode of Fargo season 1 is great." I thought that is funny because it's got Billy Bob, who plays Lauren Malvo in Fargo season 1, which is like still to this day. Fargo as a whole TV show has its holes. Season 4, not really my thing. Season 3, pretty good stuff, but season 1 and 2 are like, holy shit, especially season 1. And Billy Bob is doing my favorite work he's ever done as Lauren Malvo on that show. So I'm okay with that.
Aces.
Is this what you want? Is this what you want, Lester?
I love that first season. That first season, I couldn't stop. Like I was late for work because I was like, I got to keep going. I can't stop watching this.
I know it's bad. I've watched that season a few times, and every time I'm like, the rest of my life is on hold.
Isn't it great when you find a TV show that does that though, where you're like, nothing else matters right now. I need to know what happens next. Like, it's a good feeling.
Man, few and far between these days. There's so much TV pumped out that I'm like, I'm over it. But Better Call Saul has been doing that to me. Now that it's back finally, when that's on. And I'm so captivated. I am so fucking into Better Call Saul. It's insane. It literally is the exact same feeling I had towards the end of Breaking Bad, and like what a cool sensation.
Yeah, it's blinders on. You're in Albuquerque now, and for the next hour, you're gonna enjoy this. It's beautiful.
Yeah, fuck. And like for what it is, it's just like incredible filmmaking. Like the way that show is shot, the way they capture things, the patience that it has to just tell its story and have fun along the way is Jesus Christ. Vince Gilligan, we do not deserve him. Yeah, great. Yeah, I love that show. That's the only show. I can't remember the last show that did that to me, where I was like, oh my God, this was sucking me in.
The Shield did that to me. That was the last show I really like got sucked in that I picked. And it's a trashy show. It's basically, it's like the Walmart version of The Wire, basically. But it is a good show. And Michael Chiklis is engaging and the story was really cool. And I kept wondering, like, how are they going to get out of this one? And the last season I binged in like one day because I was like, holy shit, every episode, I'm like, Jesus. It was great. So I missed that. I'm going to find another one. I'm sure I will.
I like that feeling a lot. And I think that's like what people like fucking feed off of, is like that cliffhanger, like, oh my God, I can't wait to get the next one. And that's why Netflix has the next episode in 5 fucking seconds. Like you have no choice but to stay on the couch or stop it, like manually stop it and be like, I have to stop and I have to move on with my life. That people like that sensation. I've lost that a bit because I love movies so much now, where, a few years back, I was like, I'm going to watch The Sopranos. I'm going to watch The Wire. I'm going to watch all these, these classic kind of prestige television shows that people say are super important. And, Twin Peaks, and these different things that these shows that kind of matter to our culture. And while I appreciate that, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, it's great. But man, there's nothing like just being done with something after 2 hours and being like,
yeah,
I can move on to a completely different idea.
Yeah.
Completely different filmmaker, completely different set of actors, a different cast. That's what I feed off of now. It's like, let's just keep fucking not checking these off, but just fucking forging ahead and running through them.
Well, for me, I get that same feeling when I find a great movie, when I find a great book. Like for me, it's just, I am always on the hunt for a great story. And once I find that and I can realize like I have found a really good story here, I can just let everything else go away for a bit and just live in this. And that is a great feeling.
Yeah. Everyone fuck off. I found the art. Yeah. Such a good feeling. I love when these awards go to different places or just start talking about pop culture. Philip Seymour Hoffman Award. I feel like it's between two guys.
Yeah, you're right.
It's between the brothers, right?
It's between the brothers.
Who'd you pick?
I picked Billy Bob Thornton.
Great, because I picked Bill Paxton.
Wonderful. I just didn't expect. From reading the case and like getting the gist of this movie and looking at the cover, I was certain Billy Bob was going to be like the bad guy. But finding out not only is he basically like the only one in this movie with a goddamn soul, he's also willing to make a sacrifice so this can all be fucking over. I just was floored by that. I was floored by his performance, by it being so different than anything I'd seen him do. And I was really mesmerized by his performance. So I went with Billy Bob. I'm glad he's the one who got the nomination.
Yeah, no, I do think he deserved, that like support. It is a strong supporting role where he's in the movie a lot, has a lot of screen time. There's a lot of great lines. He's in a lot of huge fucking scenes. All of the massive scenes he really takes part in. And like you said, he's like the only guy who has a soul. When he's laying on the bed and is like, do you ever feel evil? I do. It's like, Christ, someone fucking give this guy a hug.
I mean, this dude murdered his best friend for his brother. I mean, and then clearly is not living with it well. Like get to see that part of like Bill Paxton just seems to be perfectly willing to kill whenever need be. But like Jacob did not want this from the beginning. He was like, we need to do this together. We're in this together. Why don't you guys see that? And oh God, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah, fuck, man. He's so good. It was tough. And like before I started watching the movie, because this is my second time seeing it. Before I started watching the movie, I was like, Billy Bob is taking my PSH. There's like no fucking question about it. And then I don't think I don't think we as a society, I don't think we as like an American audience give Bill Paxton enough credit. That guy, his fucking died like 5 years ago. He was like 60 because of I think it was he had a heart surgery and there were complications from it.
Yep. Yeah, that's what happened.
Just fucking sucks. I think that guy had some shit left in the tank. If you're asking me, I think he could have had a really cool, like late era in his career, like in his 70s as like a fucking like grandfather type figure. I think he could have done that. The dude, he's one of Roger Corman's fucking like disciples who's like, I'm gonna put you in my movies. I'm gonna see if you can figure this out. And Bill Paxton's like, I'm gonna fucking work on production design. I'm gonna figure out how to make costumes. I'm gonna figure out how movies work. How the things that we see on the screen, the final product, are great. But Bill Paxton became obsessed with the ins and outs, the point A to point B. How do we get there? How do we get to that final product? And he became a student in the 70s. And then of course in the 80s, the Terminator, where he has the crazy fucking hair, and aliens, like these, he becomes like crucial to these films, even if he only needs 5 fucking minutes to be like, that guy's good, like that guy's committed. And then seeing him in this, it's like, what? Like that guy can play like the all-American who's like, I got a good job, I got a good wife, I'm about to have a baby, he's going to be a father to a daughter, and you're like, oh, that's nice, that's lovely. And he turns into a monster over the course of this movie. It just takes it really doesn't take long for him to become like, dude, this conniving fucking twat. Honestly, he turns into a prick in this movie. The stuff he's doing to Jacob, his brother, and the way he's kind of fucking up the friendship between Jacob and Lou, the way he treats Lou, like, I mean, I know Lou's an asshole, but he treats him like a second-class citizen, is just like despicable. But Paxton fucking sells it. He carries the movie. He's in like every scene. And what did it for me was the end is just his fucking facial expression of like, I believe that this guy, not Bill Paxton, I believe Hank Mitchell went through this stuff. When he does the last lines, he's narrating about how there's some days that are okay, but those are few and far between. I'm usually thinking about the murders, the money, and my brother. It's like, oh my God. And he's narrating, but all it takes is Bill Paxton's face. And it's like, those pictures you see of someone who's like 18 and they're smiling and then they go to the war, like they go fight in World War II. And then they're like 25. And a picture of them from 18 to 25 is like a completely different human being. That's how I feel about Paxton's performance in this movie. It's like, this guy becomes something that's like fine to something that's like just so disgusting and so despicable because of greed, because of money, and because of a situation that they got themselves into. And man, he's good. He's fucking good in this movie. I've always been a Paxton believer and kind of like a fan as like a character actor. And now I'm kind of like, there's more to him. And I like, people should appreciate it more than they do.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Yeah, no argument here. Bill Paxton's one of the unsung heroes of character actors. And I've always liked him. But yeah, I feel like a lot of people know the face, but don't always know his name. And like I said, seeing a character actor get a lead role like this and really just, own it is great. I wish that happened more often. Yeah, his death was a tragedy, and he definitely had so much more to give. As we see with with a film like this. I get why he took the PSH for you. Just it's such a callous descent into hell for him. And it's wild watching him just be so comfortable smothering an old man in the snow or brains out of a criminal or just, talking like his brother into abandoning his best friend. It's really sick. I love transformations from good into evil, and it's never been this seamless. It's so weird how prepared he was for all this.
Yeah. There's Humphrey Bogart in Treasures of Sierra Madre, and there's Bill Paxton in fucking A Simple Plan. He's great. Oh man, like that's one of my favorite things is transformation in a movie. Not like Heath Ledger transformation into Joker before the movie was even shot, but transformation from from minute 1 to hour 2.
Yeah.
The transformation like in between the lines. And yeah, Paxton, hats off to that guy. Really wish he would have been nominated. But I get it. Him being a lead actor, Billy Bob is a showy fucking like, it's a showcase performance where it's like, look what I can fucking do. I can do this shit with my hair. I can rock these glasses that have the duct tape in the middle. I'll wear this beanie. I'll play a drunk. I'll play a bumbling fool. Like he's acting his ass off in this movie. So I get going either way, and they're both in it a ton.
I love like Billy Bob's like whenever he's like trying to tell a joke and he keeps stumbling over his words, or when he's like that when Lou picks the fight at the bar, Jacob just walks back in and is like, you shit in your left hand or some shit like that, and the guy runs at him.
You better get out of here. Yeah,
he couldn't even say what he was trying to say.
Yeah, I love that the transformation of that to him after Lou dies and he's at the bar by himself and he's just staring into an abyss. It's like, dude, Billy Bob. I mean, this is Billy Bob Sling Blade. This is late 90s Billy Bob of like, this guy is a force to be reckoned with. And yeah, I love that dude. He's always been kind of a hero of mine. He's got a lot of gravitas to him. Like there's just not a lot of dudes out there that are like Billy Bob Thornton, kind of as hard as Billy Bob Thornton.
That's true. That's very true. And he's had such an interesting career trajectory since then.
Oh
yeah. I mean, Bad Santa and Bad News Bears and then Fargo, and it's like you kind of really don't know like what's going to happen next with Billy Bob Thornton. Like he could write something, he could direct something, he could star in a TV show, he could do anything now, and it makes sense.
Yeah, one of my favorite things he's done is, of course, Fargo is my favorite role, but he plays this like shitty lawyer in this show called Goliath on Amazon Prime. He's fucking good in that show, and he plays kind of like an alcoholic, he's trying to quit drinking, but he's having trouble, and he's kind of like a Bob Odenkirk, better Saul Goodman type, like where he's like just kind of like not really playing by the rules, a type lawyer, but then he finds a case where he's like, I should like actually step up and do this, and that's a cool show. I think it's only I don't really know. I watched the first 2 seasons. I don't know if it ended after that or they kept going. I'm not really sure, but that first season like was really good, and he's great. So yeah, you're right. He's kind of a jack of all trades at this point. Yeah, I love that guy.
Goliath ended after 4 seasons. So
there you go. So I got two seasons to maybe watch at some point. We'll see.
Yeah, pretty cool. Have you ever seen Mr. Woodcock?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
It's a terrible movie, but it's funny as shit. It's one of my guilty pleasures. Mr. Woodcock.
Yeah. Like, what is he doing? But I love it. I'm totally cool with it. I accept it.
Am I the only one who realizes that this guy is the biggest asshole in the world? Like, oh my God.
Don't change, Billy Bob. Don't change. All right. Let's talk about our favorite scenes from the movie. The Roger Deakins Award. What do you got?
I have the entire sequence that leads up to Jacob killing Lou.
I chose the same fucking thing.
That scene is structured so incredibly. The buildup is amazing. Just starting at the bar with knowing what Hank is trying to do here. The way he's sipping his drink so he's not going to get drunk, so he can stay cognizant.
Yeah.
Picks up on that and is like, why are you drinking like that? And just the way, Jacob starts saying, derogatory shit about Hank. Lou starts getting agitated. Guns come out. It's like the way that the buildup is done so gradually and so naturally that you're invested. You're sucked into this, and you're like, something's gonna fucking happen here, but what? And then just end with Hank, killing Lou's wife, and then blasting around and telling Jacob like, this is what we're gonna say, while Jacob is sitting in the basement reflecting on the fact that he just killed his best friend. And Hank's like, listen to me. This is what we're going to say. Like, oh my God. It's such an incredible bit of the movie. And Jesus.
Yeah. I fucking love that scene. I love when they're all shooting the shit, and Hank, I love when Hank's doing the little sip and Jacob's like, who the fuck drinks like that? Like, he's like, what do you he's like, what the fuck is that? Like, what are you doing? And Lou's like, yeah, you have been drinking kind of fucking weird, and then you have the play along of fucking Jacob being like, oh, let's reenact, let's act out how it would happen if he went to Carl's office, and he does that, and then fucking Hank has the tape recorder, and you're like, oh man, that was a genius scene. But Jacob's like, I can't believe I just did that. And then like you said, you're like, this is not going to end well. And Lou is piss drunk. I love how he hides the fucking liquor bottle in the like chair that he's sitting in so that his wife won't see it. It's like, dude, come on. She knows you're piss drunk. She comes downstairs and is like, shut the fuck up.
Well, I love that she comes in and she's like, have you heard the one about the drunk asshole who won't shut up talking to his friends?
The guy who lives here rent free, like, shut up. I have work in the morning. Yeah, God, so good. Yeah. And then that's where I think Hank is like, whoa, to me, it's like, are you like a full-time criminal? Because he's like, bam, bam, like shooting different areas of the house with a shotgun. And you're like, dude, he's staging this shit. Like, he's going that far to where like this couple just died. And he's like, oh, I got to stage this shit so I don't get in trouble. Like, so I can keep that 4 million and go home to Sarah. Like, oh, you're a monster, dude. And then, like you said, that touch of Jacob being down the basement just like looks like he wants to die, and you can't really blame him. Like, what a rough night for him. God. And then Hank, with no soul in his eyes, tells a whole lie to the cops to get them to be like, oh yeah, it was self-defense, Jacob saved my life. And it's fucking nuts. That's like such a brilliant scene. And that's where it's like, okay, Sam Raimi has now rivaled anybody who's made a dramatic thriller, a crime thriller. That scene is incredible.
I love the aftermath at the police station when they're like noticing the holes in their stories. And I love Hank's like, well, if he remembers it that way, I can see why he would. Like, that's some shit Ted Bundy would say. Of like, yeah, well, if that's what they say, I mean, I don't remember it too well, but they would remember it better. Like, just matter of factly, no like humanity in those eyes, just stating what they've convinced themselves are the facts. It's crazy. I wonder if Paxton like looked into some like interviews of serial killers and sociopaths to try to kind of find that. I'd love to know what his process was preparing for this. Yeah,
me too. Well, I meant to mention this with my PSH. Paxton had read the book 5 years before he got the role and was like, I want to play Hank. Like, he was like, that's my role. So like, this role of Hank Mitchell is like a dream role for Bill Paxton, which is so random, but it's just a novel that he read and was like, this is really good. This is really, really engaging story. I want to be in it, and I want to be the star. I want to carry this movie. And that's just so neat that it like came to fruition, that he's able to do that. So I'm sure he went to deep research about how to play this character.
Well, and Sam Raimi, who started out, as a, B movie director working with character actors, I'm sure he was, more than willing to give Bill Paxton a chance at a leading role like that, knowing what he was capable of and knowing what character actors are capable of. So I'm sure that was a match made in heaven.
Yeah, no doubt. This movie, it just makes sense that it became what it was. I do think it is a tad too long. I think 2 hours is like, it drags a bit a couple times where it's like, okay, we could speed the pace up here. Like Fargo is like 95 minutes and it's just like a breeze. And I think like a thriller of this kind of caliber where you're dealing with this few characters, I think you could shorten it, but I don't know.
I would have introduced Gary Cole a lot earlier and had him be kind of an overarching presence in the movie. And then at the end have the realization that he's not actually FBI. Like, maybe they're afraid of him the whole movie, thinking he's like onto them, that he's a Fed. And then they make that connection and it's like, oh shit, the guy you think's on the right side of this has been the criminal all along. I would have done something like that.
That's fair. Yeah. I think that plot point of the movie is for how long the movie is, 2 hours. That part is too quick. You go from Hank and Sarah being like, I don't think he's in the FBI. Like he might be this guy's brother. Fuck. And then like a scene later, it's like that's happening now. And like all of a sudden she's calling Carl, the sheriff, and she's like, I need to speak to Hank. And she's like, get out of there. You know, it's like that happened probably a little too quick for the pace of the rest of the movie.
I do love that scene though, when he's on the phone and he's like, I know,
love
Sarah.
you too.
Yeah, love you too. Can't come home right now. And she's like, get the fuck out of there. What are you doing? And he's just like, I'll bring milk home or whatever, and like hangs up. And it's like, shit. Like what now? Like that was good.
And he goes back to the desk and just grabs a shit ton of bullets and is like, one of these fuckers will work. Yeah. God, what a brilliant. Yeah, that really from the like scene that we were talking about where Lou and Nancy die. From there on out, it's like, dude, fucking buckle up. This is a thriller, like to the core. People want to talk about Silence of the Lambs being a thriller, like we talked about last week. No. This is a like proper, subgenre thriller. Like that's what this movie is. It's a crime drama thriller. Like that's like to the core. It's not scary. It's not freaky or anything. It's just like, dude, this is so entertaining. and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely, man. This was a good pick for the show. This is the kind of stuff, I love doing. These movies I've heard about or, have planned to see and am now getting a chance to truly observe in a like with a good mindset of talking about it. Like something similar next week. So pretty cool.
Sure, truly. Yeah, something totally untapped by us. Well, let's finish this thing off and look at some categories and talk about what we think about them. We'll start with let's do adapted screenplay first. And then we'll do supporting actor after. Let's see, where are we at? We got Out of Sight by Scott Frank from the novel by Elmore Leonard. I've always wanted to see that. Elmore Leonard is like an absolute legend and has his stuff adapted all the time. Primary Colors, Elaine May, another legend, adapted from the novel by Joe Klein. A Simple Plan, adapted by Scott B. Smith from his own novel. The Thin Red Line, Terrence Malick, adapted from the novel by James Jones. And the winner, Gods and Monsters. Fucking haven't seen that yet. that crushes me.
All four of those films have been on my list for years. I want to watch all of those, and I fucking hate that I haven't seen Gods and Monsters, especially. I know I'm going to absolutely love that movie. I mean, It's a biopic of James Whale, the openly gay director of Frankenstein in 1931, played by Ian McKellen. I mean, are you kidding me?
Yeah, I hate that I haven't seen this. Yeah, Ian McKellen, Brendan Fraser's in this movie. Like, what are we doing? Maybe we should just fucking pick it at some point and just do it. I wanted to watch. Of course, I've seen The Thin Red Line because I fucking love Malick, but I almost was like, let's use this week to watch Gods and Monsters, Out of Sight, and Primary Colors, as well as A Simple Plan. I just didn't have the time. I had to be a little bit. I had to kind of adjust things, and like they're not all on streaming, so I was like, "Fuck!" But one day that'll happen.
If you didn't have the time, I sure as fuck did not have the time.
I know you didn't. Yeah, yeah.
But I own Primary Colors. Like we could do that whenever. And Out of Sight, I know that's got a Jackie Brown connection because Michael Keaton plays Ray Nicolette in that as well.
Man. Yeah. Fucking hell, dude. Yeah. Elaine May's, Elaine May and Mike Nichols, like what a match made in heaven. Out of Sight, fucking Steven Soderbergh. You got Danny DeVito's in that goddamn movie. So we definitely have some homework to do with these.
Yeah, I figured a lot of untapped awards movies that I have not watched from this ceremony. Definitely a lot I want to see. And I've got time.
Yeah, we will get to it at some point. This is sometimes the beauty of this show is kind of challenging yourself. Like, okay, I need to take this more seriously and not necessarily take it more seriously, but take these movies seriously and try to knock them off when you can. What about? Are you looking at the Wikipedia right now?
I am.
Okay. What do you think about the supporting actor group? I feel like you love these guys.
I do, but again, oh wait, no, actually, yeah, okay. I've only not seen two of these. I haven't seen Affliction or A Civil Action.
You haven't seen a civil action?
I know, I have not.
That's kind of fascinating. I thought we had talked about this movie at some point. Yeah, John Travolta is fucking great in that movie.
It's one of those,
Yeah.
you know, I love courtroom dramas. I love Travolta. I love Duvall. Like, there's no real reason I haven't. Like, I'll watch it at some point, I'm sure.
All right. Well, I'll let you take this category. Let's. Yeah, I know some of these guys are your people.
Okay. We've got Robert Duvall for Civil Action, Ed Harris for The Truman Show, Jeffrey Rush for Shakespeare in Love, Billy Bob Thornton in A Simple Plan, and the winner, James Coburn for Affliction. Haven't seen Affliction, so I can't judge whether or not Coburn deserved this one. Have you seen Affliction?
Hell yeah. I wanted to do it for an episode. I remember we kind of like penciled that in at some point,
I remember
and
that.
I can't remember why I changed my mind. It might have been on streaming, then it was taken off or something. I can't remember, but then I went back and watched it. It's my guy Schrader. It's Paul Schrader writing and directing, and Nick Nolte in the fucking late '90s. So I really like it. It's like an 8 out of 10 movie. I would definitely love to do it on the show at some point. It's cool to tackle movies like this that have a supporting actor win. James Coburn's really good. I've seen all these movies, and I would give it to Billy Bob Thornton, but that's just me.
You know what? From what I've seen, I would too. I've seen, you know, for me, this is between Ed Harris, Jeffrey Rush, and Billy Bob, because those are the three I've seen. And Jeffrey Rush and Shakespeare in Love is, you know, he's that whole movie really is cute, but it has no business being here.
Yeah, it's fine, but yeah.
No. Ed Harris in Truman Show, though, is given quite a powerhouse performance of just, you know, a man who thinks he's God, which is it's always a cool thing to see in film. But Billy Bob is just so goddamn tortured as Jacob and really sells this, you know, last man on earth kind of vibe that I really like. So I think, yeah, he should get a win here. I think he won for screenplay for Sling Blade, though, right?
Yes, in '96. Yeah. Now, really, John Goodman should win Best Supporting Actor for playing Walter and Big Lebowski, but you know, Big Lebowski got completely shut out. That's like one of the best movies of all time that got 0 nominations because it was kind of a bomb when it came out. People were like, "This isn't Fargo." You know, it took like 8 years for people to figure out, "Oh, that was actually better than Fargo." Fuck, you know, and here we are now. It's their most popular, most talked about movie of their entire filmography.
Ignoring it in '98. Well, you know, this is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass.
Yeah. Same thing with, you know, a little movie called The Shining, all work, no play, you know, 1980 just gets shut out, was even up for like a bunch of Razzies. So, you know, shit happens.
Sometimes the Academy wouldn't know art if it broke a fucking door down in its face with an axe.
Yeah, I sadly, I agree. This ceremony is way more fun to do. Like, I don't really want to do a Best Picture showdown with this ceremony. I think it's cool now to like shit on certain movies that have won Best Picture, like Shakespeare in Love. Like, the movie sucks. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's not like bad, but it's not good either. And that's annoying when a movie like that wins Best Picture when you do have some really good movies that, like The Truman Show's not even up for Best Picture, you know, and that's bonkers because that's like what? I mean, it's Elizabeth, Life is Beautiful, Saving Private Ryan, The Thin Red Line, and Shakespeare in Love. Like, I don't want to go through that. Like, that's a tough fucking group to just like kind of trudge through. I Saving Private Ryan's great. I've seen Life is Beautiful once, and I had a good time watching it. Or good time appreciating it. It's not like an easy watch or anything. Thin Red Line is like long as fuck. And Shakespeare in Love, you can kind of take it or leave it. So like, it's just not one of those that's jumping out off the page like, oh, we have to do that year. It's more fun to me. You know, we did Truman Show. We've done A Simple Plan. In my opinion, the next pick would be Gods and Monsters.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, those 5 are all pretty. I don't think a single one of them is under 2 hours. And
No.
yeah, it's all just kind of downers. I mean, I know
Yeah.
I haven't seen Life is Beautiful, but I know the subject matter, and I'm not exactly itching to watch that. I'm not a Holocaust movie guy. It's fucking sad. I don't want to watch that shit for 2 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, and then have to like rank it and talk about it on a show for 2 hours.
And then you got
I don't
3 World War II movies and like Elizabeth, which I'm sure is good, but also, long as fuck and pretty, has a pretty like narrow target demographic.
Yeah.
And then Shakespeare in Love, which is like the comedy fucking version of Elizabeth. So like there's not a lot of variety here.
Yeah, like it fucking, say what you will, but it would be more fun to do like Armageddon, like just for fun. Like I don't know.
That would be a blast doing that on Oscar Sunday.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Just for the hell of it. We could both watch the Criterion edition of it, like take it really seriously and be like, what the fuck is this? Man. I don't know, man. I mean, this ceremony is weird. Like it's weird. 1998 is great, but they just missed out on so much cool stuff. I'm looking at it now and I'm just like, oh my God, there's a lot of stuff they're missing. And stuff from our top fives for sure. And that's just that sucks. But that's the way the cookie crumbles.
Yeah, I don't get it sometimes. It's weird what resonates with people, but as we've come to learn, they get their 10-minute viewing package, they watch it, and then they go home. So, I mean, are we really surprised?
Yeah, no, Judi Dench has a couple bits in Shakespeare in Love that's like, I would get that if they watched 10 minutes of Judi Dench fucking lighting people up. I would totally understand, them being like, this is the best movie of the year. But, then again, Rounders came out the same year and is way better.
This is one of those travesty years where the wrong movie won Best Picture. And it's just, I think it's more valuable to our time to kind of go with the outliers.
Yeah, for these ceremonies, I agree. Like, we haven't done the worst Best Picture winner we've done is Hamlet or Chariots of Fire, and I don't want to do that very often.
No, in fact, it really kind of I hate it when I end up watching a Best Picture winner I haven't seen that turns out to be a piece of shit that did not deserve to be there. And it's like, well, now there's this kind of shadow over the episode where we're all just kind of like, why is this here?
Yeah. So, our next Best Picture showdown is going to be a classic.
Oh yeah. It's one that's been in the works and we already know we love this movie. So it's going to be fun.
Oh yeah. It's going to be actually episode 105 is what that'll be. And it'll end up being our 2-year anniversary of doing this show. Our first episode was 2 years ago, June 2020. And we did Pulp Fiction. And then, for our 1 year, we didn't really plan it, but it ended up being Anatomy of a Murder. So, I mean, not bad. Let's just say this movie that we're going to be doing might be better than those 2 movies, which is fucking saying something, maybe not better for us personally, but I think in like the film conscience of most people, they're like, it's one of the greatest movies of all time. So I mean, I'm not going to argue with that.
Nah, it's a movie I could put on at any time and enjoy. And that's always good.
Yeah, I can't wait. The is pretty tough overall, the Best Picture group, but we're gonna have some fun with it for sure. And the winner is great. So yeah, I can't wait for that. But yeah, this is a blast. We're definitely gonna go with this route from here on out with this show. Kind of like start off with some kind of fun project, maybe talk about some of the individuals that are in the movie that are Oscar nominated, or do a top 5 or do a draft. And we're going to go straight into our awards because I think that's the best way to just open up and talk about the film. And then we'll finish with the ceremony always. So yeah, that's going to be what we do moving forward. But tomorrow, more Sam Raimi stuff. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness is going to be the talk of the town. I'm sure that's you and Caleb. Just fucking going at that movie. We're recording this on Friday night. You've already seen it.
Yeah.
I will probably be seeing it tomorrow night if I'm lucky. Hopefully, depends when I get out of work. I'm excited. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to hear you guys talk about it.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig into this one. Major implications for the MCU going forward. I love that we're, so deep into this crazy ass convoluted multi-branch story that Kevin Feige has crafted for us. And I'm just excited for what he's got planned next. It's really like, I've yet to really be disappointed by any of these. I'm enjoying the ride.
Hell yeah, man. And then on Filmgazm on Wednesday, Firestarter, 1984, because the new one is coming out, which is when I watched the trailer for Firestarter, I think me and Caleb talked about this last week. Zac Efron's playing a dad. What the fuck? Like where did the time go in the new Firestarter? So it feels right to do this movie, the 80s one. Kind of go back to some Stephen King, kind of go back to our roots of Filmgazm. Feels right.
Yeah. And I'm excited to kind of see if this movie holds up in any way. Because when I watched it a long time ago, I did like it. But now, I'm going to stress this every possible opportunity I have. George C. Scott plays a Native American. And the way they did that was they basically gave him black hair. And that's fucking sad. So I'm going to see how much does that hurt this movie? I'm assuming a fuck ton. So we'll see. I think it'll be fun to just go into an 80s King movie, prepping for the remake.
Yeah, that's always a good place to be on Filmgazm is the 80s. And then on Beyond the Bad Friday, episode 19. We're getting close to that number 20. Freddy got fingered. What the fuck? God
That's
damn
what
it.
I said. I mentioned this on last week's Beyond the Bad. I tried so hard to get Caleb to do anything else. I wanted him to. I was like, it's a Friday the 13th. We could do a Jason movie. And he told me he didn't want Jason. He didn't want our first touch of Jason to be a bad movie. So on some level, I understood that. But also, I have 1,700 movies in the potential list. And we got to do Freddy Got Fingered.
Yeah, really? This Friday? We have to do that?
Yeah. So we're going to be watching Tom Green's masterpiece, I guess. And yeah, I don't really know what to expect. I don't know anything about this movie apart from the fact that it is considered one of the worst movies of all time. And I don't fucking like Tom Green. I think he's obnoxious and irritating. So here we go.
Yeah. It's pretty rare that you find something endearing that Tom Green does. It's pretty rare. I don't know if it even has happened. Maybe Road Trip. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, the guy's fucking whack. And then next week on this show, next Sunday, we'll be going back to the 1930s, which we haven't done for a long time. I'm excited to go back to old school Hollywood, right? And kind of go back to the beginning of the Academy Awards. 1932, Shanghai Express. It was nominated for 3 awards at the 5th Academy Awards. 5th. Like, holy fuck. It won Best Cinematography, and then it was up for Best Picture and Best Director. So some pretty big categories. But we're going to have some fun watching this movie that's like an hour and 20 minutes, which is great. We don't really ever get that on this show. So it's usually like 2 hours or 3. And, so it's going to be nice to kind of just watch something completely different that neither of us have ever seen. Go into this movie blind, see what we think. It's got people like this movie. It's apparently stood the test of time and has good, good Metascore, good Letterboxd, good Rotten Tomatoes, good IMDb rating. So I'm excited. I'm going into it with not super high expectations, but I expect a good episode. I expect we'll have some fun. It's a movie based on a lady who is riding a train. That's a dangerous situation happens. I don't know much about it, but we're going to be talking about trains next week. That's all I'll say.
And I think for both of us, it feels good to kind of right a wrong here because we had planned to do Shanghai Express a while back. Yep. And we couldn't fucking find it. It was so hard to get a hold of. So we had to cancel that episode and do The Wizard of Oz instead, which ended up being really fun. But yeah, the next day I went to my local Half Price Books and I found a copy of Shanghai Express. So I was like, crazy. Well, here we go. Now we can do it.
The gods have spoken. Yeah.
So yeah, this feels good to do this proper because it felt like the episode that got away.
Yeah, it really is. It's like the lost artifact of Oscar Sunday. So yeah, it'll be great. I don't expect a lot of listeners to like be like, oh, I'll go fucking buy that movie. It is hard to find. It's not an easy one, but we will be opening up that episode with something really fun, something that's more immersive and not just about 1932. So still come check us out and keep up with us this week. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's always at Filmgazm, filmgazm.com. We're always putting up new articles and reviews and all kinds of shit. So stick with us and we'll see you tomorrow for Doctor Strange.